What if I told you that every time you questioned yourself, every time you felt like you didn't belong, every time the world seemed to reward the wrong people, you were actually seeing the truth? What if the nagging feeling that something is deeply broken wasn't paranoia, but perception? The system was never designed to elevate the brilliant. It was engineered to elevate the compliant. Let that sink in for a moment. Because everything you're about to hear will challenge the very foundation of what you've been taught about success, intelligence, and your place in this world. From the moment you entered a classroom, you were placed into a machine that didn't ask what you were curious about. It didn't care what kept you awake at night with wonder. It asked one simple question: can you follow instructions? Can you memorize what we tell you to memorize? Can you regurgitate it on command? And if you could sit still, raise your hand at the right moment, fill in the correct bubbles on the test, you were labeled smart. But if your mind wandered to the edges of the universe while the teacher droned on about dates and formulas, if you questioned why instead of simply accepting what, you were labeled difficult, distracted, a problem. This is not an accident. This is architecture. The modern education system was not designed by philosophers seeking to illuminate young minds. It was designed during the Industrial Revolution by factory owners who needed workers. They didn't need thinkers. They needed operators, people who could show up on time, follow procedures, and never question the assembly line. And so they built schools that looked like factories, with bells that rang like shift changes, with rows of desks like rows of machines, with grades that measured compliance more than comprehension. Think about that. The very institution that claims to measure your intelligence was never designed to recognize it. It was designed to suppress it, to sand down the edges of your curiosity until you fit neatly into a slot. And if you didn't fit, if your genius was too wild, too unconventional, too threatening to the orderly production of obedient workers, then you were failed. Literally. They gave you an F and called it your fault. History is littered with geniuses who were rejected by this system. Einstein was told he would never amount to anything. Edison was called addled by his teachers. Tesla died in poverty while lesser minds built empires on his inventions. The pattern is so consistent, it cannot be coincidence. The system does not reward intelligence. It punishes it, because intelligence asks questions, and questions threaten systems. But here's where it gets even more unsettling. This design didn't stay in the classroom. It metastasized into every institution that shapes your life. The workplace became an extension of the school. Show up on time, follow the procedure, don't question your superiors. The most promotable employee isn't the one with the best ideas. It's the one who makes their boss feel comfortable, who doesn't threaten, who plays the game. Look around any corporate environment and you'll see it. The brilliant minds are often stuck in cubicles doing the actual work, while those who mastered the art of visibility, of saying the right things in meetings, of taking credit gracefully, of never making waves, they rise, not because they're smarter, but because they're safer. The system doesn't want disruption, it wants maintenance, and intelligence by its very nature is disruptive. So ask yourself this. If the system actively suppresses intelligence, what exactly is it rewarding? The answer might disturb you, because what the system truly rewards is a very specific type of ignorance, not the ignorance of lacking information, but the ignorance of never questioning why things are the way they are. The ability to look at an absurd rule and follow it anyway. The capacity to see injustice and call it procedure. The willingness to trade your authentic thoughts for approved opinions. This is why social media has become such a powerful force. It's the ultimate training ground for this kind of compliance. The algorithm doesn't reward depth, it rewards volume. It doesn't reward nuance, it rewards outrage. The most successful voices online are often the loudest, not the wisest. The ones who reduce complex issues to simple slogans. The ones who tell you what to think, so you don't have to think at all. And here's the cruel irony. The truly intelligent often struggle in this environment. Because intelligence sees complexity, it hesitates before certainty. It acknowledges what it doesn't know, but the system punishes hesitation. It rewards confidence, even when that confidence is built on nothing but air. The person who speaks first wins the meeting. The person who posts fastest wins the algorithm. Speed beats depth, volume beats value. If this resonates with you, if you've felt this invisible weight your entire life, the sense that the game was rigged before you even learned the rules, then stay with me, because understanding the problem is only the first step. What comes next might change everything. You see, there's a reason this message finds you now. There's a reason you clicked on this video, instead of the countless others promising easy answers and quick fixes. Something in you recognized a truth that most people spend their entire lives running from. You are not broken. The system is. But here's what they don't want you to know. Recognizing this truth is the first step toward freedom. Not the freedom they sell you, the freedom of buying more, consuming more, numbing yourself with entertainment until you forget the emptiness. Real freedom, the freedom of a mind that finally stops apologizing for its own brilliance. Think about the most transformative figures in human history. Socrates was executed for asking too many questions. Jesus was crucified for challenging the religious establishment. Galileo was imprisoned for telling the truth about the stars. Every single person who moved humanity forward was, in their time, considered a threat to the system. They were the difficult ones, the troublemakers, the ones who couldn't just sit down and follow the program, and yet we build statues to them now. We name schools after them, the same schools that would have failed them, because history eventually recognizes what the system cannot, that progress comes from those who refuse to comply. So what does this mean for you? What do you do with this knowledge? First, you must grieve, and I mean that seriously. You must allow yourself to feel the weight of all the years you spent doubting yourself, all the times you dimmed your light because it made others uncomfortable, all the ideas you never shared because you learned somewhere along the way that your thoughts weren't welcome. That grief is real, it deserves acknowledgement, but grief is not a destination. It's a doorway. And on the other side of that doorway is something remarkable, the opportunity to rebuild. You cannot change the system overnight, but you can change your relationship to it. You can stop measuring your worth by metrics that were designed to keep you small. You can start asking the questions you were trained to suppress. You can seek out the others, because they're out there, the fellow misfits, the ones who never quite fit the mold. And you can build something new together. The greatest minds in history didn't succeed because the system supported them. They succeeded despite it. They found ways to work around the obstacles, to create spaces where their brilliance could flourish, to connect with others who saw what they saw. And you can do the same. But there's a secret still more profound that few ever discover, and it's this. The system's greatest weakness is that it depends on your belief. It only works if you accept its definitions. If you agree that their grades measure your intelligence. If you accept that their promotions measure your worth. If you believe that their approval determines your value. The moment you withdraw that belief, the system loses its power over you. Not immediately, not completely. You still have to pay rent, still have to navigate institutions. But internally, fundamentally, you become free. You stop performing for judges who were never qualified to evaluate you. You start building according to your own blueprints. And here's what's truly revolutionary. This withdrawal of belief is contagious. When one person stops playing the game, others notice. They start questioning too. The emperor's new clothes only work when everyone agrees not to mention the obvious. But one child's voice, one honest voice saying what everyone secretly knows, can shatter the entire illusion. You might be that voice. You might be reading this at the exact moment you needed to hear it. The moment before you gave up on yourself entirely and surrendered to the system's definition of who you should be. And if that's you, I want you to know, your doubt was wisdom. Your alienation was perception. Your inability to fit was not a flaw, it was a feature. The system was designed to reward idiots because idiots don't threaten systems. They maintain them. They perpetuate them. They pass them on to their children unquestioned. But you with your inconvenient questions, your uncomfortable insights, your refusal to pretend, you are the variable they cannot control. You are the glitch in their matrix. So here's my challenge to you. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, this week. Identify one belief you've been carrying that was given to you by a system that never had your best interests at heart. Maybe it's the belief that you're not smart enough. Maybe it's the belief that success requires selling your soul. Maybe it's the belief that your different way of seeing is a disability rather than a gift. Find that belief, name it, and then consciously, deliberately set it down. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know exactly what comes next. You just have to take the first step, refusing to be measured by rulers that were designed to find you lacking. The truth is this, and let it echo in your mind long after this video ends, the system calls you an idiot because it cannot afford to call you what you really are. Dangerous. Not dangerous in the way they pretend to fear. Dangerous in the way that every lie fears the truth. Dangerous in the way that every cage fears the one who finds the key. You are not what they graded you. You are not what they promoted you to be, or failed to promote you to be. You are not the sum of their metrics and measurements. You are something they never built a test for, something they cannot contain in their spreadsheets, something that, despite every attempt to standardize and sanitize and suppress, still burns in you right now in this moment as you hear these words. That fire, that's not delusion. That's your intelligence, finally recognized, finally honored, finally freed. If this message found its way to you today, maybe it's because you were ready to hear it. And if it moved something in you, if it put words to something you always felt but couldn't express, then do something with it. Share this with someone who's been doubting themselves. Leave a comment telling your story, because others need to know they're not alone. Subscribe to this channel because this conversation is just beginning. The system was designed to reward idiots. But you were designed for something more, and now finally you know it.